Mic check. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Panchatula. Hi, I'm Ashley Daigle, and this is Advice from the Cheerbrarian. Never heard that word before? That's because I smushed two words together because I felt like it. This week, we're going to do what we always do. Mix a dollop of advice to improve your life, born from a few of my successes and a boatload of my mistakes, with the book recommendation of the week, unearthed by my voracious love of reading, from self-help to historical fiction and everything in between. Today, we are going to take a mid-year look at those January New Year's resolutions as we celebrate successes and maybe recalibrate to have a great back half of 2024. If you like what you hear, and I really hope you do, please, pretty please, with 2 cherries on top, tell 2 people about this podcast and send them a link to an episode that you enjoyed, because direct word of mouth is huge for a little pod like mine. And now, let's jam. So y'all, it is, as I record this, just about the end of June. And I hate to be the one to break this news to you, but the end of June means we are, drum roll please, I'm just going to tap the microphone. We are halfway through 2024, which is shocking. So hopefully you were sitting down as I delivered that to you somberly. I know, I'm sorry. You're probably like, Ashley, it is summer. I have enough to do because I'm trying to have a great summer because there's pressure to do that. I'm supposed to have a good vacation. I'm supposed to have a beach body. There's a lot of summer messaging that can be stressful. I know I find it stressful. Also, sidebar, if you have a body, you can take it to a beach. So please do not feel pressured to have your body look a certain way or be a certain situation for you to go to a beach. That's a little extra little Cheerbrarian sizzle for you. As I was saying, though, we're getting close also as I record to the 4th of July, which is, typically in the US of A, filled with so many fireworks, which is confusing because so many places it's not legal, but woof, a lot of fireworks. And as the fireworks approach, that also reminded me of New Year's Eve. And so I thought, now would be a good time. We're 6 months in to look back at those New Year things because I know what can happen. The year gets ahead of you. You got a lot of year gets ahead of you. Hello. The year gets away from you. There you go. Similar word, different concept. And it can be difficult to sort of keep track of what your aims were or what you really wanted to work on in the year. And then come December, people start posting on social media all these end of year things about, what happened in the past 12 months. And you can be like, oh, yeah, what did happen in the past 12 months? So I want to get ahead of that for myself. And I'm giving you that prompt as well. So we're going to take a look today. So this episode is called Resolution Redo, Redo. The second redo is spelled Redeaux, which is a little Louisiana flavor that is nonsensical and not actually French. But anyway, so I'm going to look back at the resolutions I made that I actually shared on this podcast when I talked about resolutions and give myself a grade and see how I've been doing and model this behavior for you. So you can take a look at yours. Take a look at yours. Take a look at yours. There we go. Enunciation is our friend. What I'm going for today with this episode is to have a vibe of look how far we've come and identify opportunities for the road ahead. So if when I said resolutions, your first thought was like, oh, yeah, I did have some resolutions and they're, in a drawer collecting dust. Well, guess what? It's all gravy, baby. Okay. That is why we're going to ponder now so we can put our feet in front of us proudly versus another way you'd put your feet. Today, I'm just full of pearls of wisdom, aren't I? I will go first, as I'm the only one talking. The resolutions that I made for this year, I kept it pretty simple. In the past, I've been super ambitious and made things sort of convoluted. So this year, I said, I'm going to keep it easy breezy with just 2 sort of themes to work on. So what did I say way back in the Wayback Machine of January? So the first was that I wanted to have less of the S word, should, in my life. So I wanted to worry less about sort of societal pressures about what I thought I was supposed to be doing and how I was supposed to be behaving and behave more in line with my values and my own goals. And I wanted to have more. So I had less and more. And I wanted to have more mindfulness. When I went back and reread this, I was like, how do I feel like I'm doing? Immediate response, 7 out of 100. I was just like, well, you're doing absolutely terribly. And I was like, is that the truth, Ashley, or is that monkey brain thinking where you're quick to dismiss your efforts and quick to give yourself a hard time? And I was like, okay, Ashley. Yeah, that maybe isn't accurate. So I was like, okay, well, how can I actually measure this? Can I measure these goals at all? So less should. If anything, I think I've actually felt more pressure, but where that's coming from is that by way of making this podcast, I'm spending a lot more time on social media because you got to promote these things, baby. You got to get it out there. And so anytime I'm spending more time on social media, it feels like I'm getting an influx of, you're getting all this messaging about what you're supposed to eat or do or look like or how you're supposed to spend your time. That is a tricky one because I do want to promote this work, but I don't want to constantly bombard myself with more things to judge myself on. So, which I say a lot, by the way. If you heard the pre-edits of this thing, every sentence is the word so. Anyway, um, my challenge for the rest of 2024 is going to be how can I find some balance and spend less time on social media, but still promote the podcast. If you have any ideas about this, please let me know because it's a tricky one that I have not figured out yet, which is okay. Because guess what? I just started this podcast in February. So cut yourself some slack, Ashley. Thanks, Ashley. See, I'm role modeling how you can talk to yourself about this. I hope you're finding this helpful. So then my other resolution was the more mindfulness. Can I measure that? Well, I was like, well, what have I done for mindfulness? I use the meditation app 10% Happier. And so I looked at that and I currently have a 48-week streak going. I want to be very clear on that. Week streak, not a day streak. I am so glad that this app works that way where I can go in and see what I did every day and it tells you how many days you've done overall, but the week is the goal. And so that has been important for me because would I like to have a daily meditation practice? Absolutely. But trying to hold myself to that and judge myself on that, that's going to be a baby with the bathwater situation where I know that because of how life is, I won't do it every day. And then I'll be like, well, I failed. Might as well stop being mindful. So props to you, 10% Happier, for having an app that is, keeping things on a weekly basis. What I said previously about a 7 out of 100, I don't think a 48-week streak sounds like 7 out of 100 behavior, does it? I think that actually sounds pretty good. So I'm going to out loud say, good job for being mindful. Y'all, can I just say, I love giving other people praise, and it just made me so uncomfortable to tell myself I was doing good at something. That's something to unpack for later. Okay. And the other thing I need to be mindful about is that I am about to enter a period of unemployment. So I have a contracted job I've been doing that is run its course. And so I've got to figure out what else is going to be happening. I need to be mindful about that for the rest of 2024, that no matter what happens in the days to come, it's going to be change. And guess what? Change is hard. And job searching is, I don't know, one of the worst things ever in the history of humanity. In conclusion, I will give myself an A on mindfulness with an eye to what I need to do in the days ahead, giving myself grace and change. And I'm going to give myself a C plus in less of should, because I think that one needs more work. And I hope you take an opportunity to take a look back at any resolutions you made so that you can end 2024 on a high note. And if you want to share your resolutions with me, send them over and I can give you some feedback on them. We can talk about it. I will praise you like you should, just like Fatboy Slim says. And now I'm very excited to talk to you about this book today. Y'all don't even know. I have the words of someone else who I'm going to share as I segue into this next section. Someone who I think would be excited to help you. Someone who has a someone who has a fun and funny voice. There we go. I might edit that, but I'm kind of enjoying the vibe of these little silly bits today. So we'll see what happens. Anywho, someone who has a lot of wisdom to share. So here is a juicy tidbit from the book I'm about to discuss. Quotation. How do we move forward when we are tired and afraid? What do we do when the voice in our head is yelling that we are never going to make it? How do we drag ourselves through the muck when our brain is telling us, you are dumb and you will never finish and no one cares and it is time you stop? Well, the first thing we do is take our brain out and put it in a drawer, stick it somewhere and let it tantrum until it wears itself out. End quote. That's so smart, right? Oh gosh, so beautiful. I love it. So, we're going to get into unrequired reading, and I will share with you what book this came from. It is one of my favorite books, and it is perfect for helping you breathe new life into what may be some stale resolutions. Okay, I am so excited to talk about this book. This is one of the few books that I have reread multiple times. I think I'm up till 4 times, and I'm actually about to start listening to it again. So the book is called Yes, Please, and it is by comedian and just hashtag life goals Amy Poehler. Now, you might have already read this book. It was very popular when it came out, which, by the way, was an entire decade ago, which I think is wild. It came out in 2014. But I encourage you, if you have read it, to revisit it, especially if, like me, you are about to enter a period of transition and could use a friend that makes you feel like it's going to be okay, because that is what I think Amy does with her amazing book. So I first want to tell you about the audiobook, y'all. She's obviously a gifted writer. She spent her whole life, being a writer and entertaining. And so hearing her read her book, if it was just her reading the book, would be great because she's brilliant. But it's not just her reading the book. So she has her good buddy and SNL friend, Seth Meyers, write a chapter. So he reads his chapter. And before he reads it, they like do some bits back and forth. They're just like giggling. It's such a beautiful friendship to see. And I won't explain why or how, but she also has guest spots from both Kathleen Turner and friggin' Patrick Stewart, which is like, what? Her actual parents write a chapter and then they read their own chapter, which again, truly delightful. So maybe audiobooks aren't your thing. If they're not, I would still encourage you to check this one out. It would be great for a road trip and something you could sort of like pick up and put down again because it's, somebody telling their story. So, as I said, the title of this book is Yes, Please. And I think it's important for you to know where they came from. So, yes comes from her days of improv, where you're like yes anding your partner to try to continue building a scene. And then please comes from what she says is agreeing to do something usually means you aren't doing it alone. So she's identifying that like making my way in life has required help. And so I always like to say please. She also says it's the constant struggle and often the right answer. So, for example, am I allowed to take up space? Yes, please. Would you like to be left alone? Yes, please. She considers it both a response and a request. And it just, like, you don't even have to open the book and you're already in it. But what is the book about? This book is not your standard memoir. So if you've read a memoir before, they tend to be, pretty straightforward. Here is what happened in the past and how I grew up. Here is how I got to be where I am now. Here are juicy tidbits of the things that made me famous enough for you to want to read this memoir, and like the end. This book is not that at all. So it's basically like 1/3 memoir, 1/3 advice, 1/3 essays, except those things are not clearly delineated. So she kind of hops back and forth. So structurally, it's a bit of a mess, but I think it's just a reflection of like how she thinks and what she wants to share. And I'm here for it. Now, it is broken up into 3 sections, and the titles of the sections is just great advice. So part 1 is say whatever you want. Part 2 is do whatever you like. And part 3 is be whoever you are. If you could take one of those pieces of advice and knock it out of the park, you would be doing great. So before you even read this book, she's already coming at you. Beautiful. I am now going to share some of my favorite advice from it because perhaps you don't have time to read this book, but I still want you to glean some really cool things. So here is what I adored. She has a great bit on being less judgmental. So she's talking about, women and childbirth and sort of how people decide to do certain things. And her response to someone doing something that she would not do is good for her, not for me. 6 words. Good for her, not for me. And with those 6 words, she has given just the simplest understanding of it is okay for people to do things that you wouldn't do, and you don't have to judge them or laugh at them or make fun of them because what is good for someone else may not be good for you. I say this pretty regularly. I spit this out all the time. It's something that has become part of my DNA at this point. The next thing that she talked about that's really cool is about the pudding. No, she is not talking about actual pudding. This is metaphorical pudding. And so she talks about it in the context of being nominated for awards, as she was, throughout her career, Golden Globes and Emmys and things like that. And so the awards is what she has identified as the pudding, and how wanting the pudding can make you irrational. And, maybe you didn't even care and you try to tell yourself it's not that important, but, it becomes this larger than life thing in your mind and can consume you. And so she talks about how you can trick your brain into trying to want it less by focusing on other things. So when she was nominated for these awards, she actually ended up doing lots of bits with the other people in her category, and just the process of coming up with these bits and having the shared experience with these other women made her care less about winning. And, I have not been nominated for many Golden Globes, and that I have not been nominated for any of them. But there have certainly been times in my life when there's been some award I wanted or a job I wanted or something, and the want of it can consume you and distract you from what's important. And so that chapter I thought was particularly brilliant. And then my favorite one of all, which is, it's hard to pick a favorite, y'all. I really do love this book. But this especially speaks to me as I'm about to be job searching. Her advice is to treat your career like a bad boyfriend. And I'm going to read direct from the book on this chunk because it's brilliant. So she says, your career won't take care of you. It won't call you back or introduce you to its parents. Your career will openly flirt with other people while you are around. And she goes on and on with that for about a paragraph and really hammers in the analogy because it's funny. But the advice is really smart because you care about the career, but the career does not, in fact, care about you. What that means to me is that something that you have so little control over, right? I mean, I guess if you're an entrepreneur, you're making your own way, but you still can't control who's going to hire you or, what, your days, weeks, months might look like. But letting your career dictate your importance is going to be a bad way to go. You are not your job, and you can't control most elements of things, Markets change, companies lay people off, the environment changes around you, and you cannot dictate what is going to happen. So you should not put all of your self-worth into any job or any career, because ultimately a lot of it, yes, it has to do with skill, but there's also luck involved, and you just can't control the outcome. She also says, you will never climb career mountain and get to the top and shout, I made it. You will rarely feel done or complete or even successful. Most people I know struggle with that complicated soup of feeling slighted on one hand and like a total fraud on the other. Y'all. Again, Amy Poehler said, most people I know struggle with the complicated soup of feeling slighted and a fraud, right? She is someone who is, I would say, considered to be very successful in her chosen career, worked really hard to get there, but has received accolades and puddings, as it were. And the people that she knows struggle with this soup. So if, the rest of us who are not on television are saying, wow, I feel like I don't have it all together, well, I guess we're in pretty good company with most other people bumbling around on this earth. And so that was a really valuable thing to reread as I was gearing up for this episode. So as I get ready to listen to this book again, I'm so excited, and I'm excited I got to share it with you today, and I hope you found it helpful. And now it's about time to say ta-ta for now. Toodaloo. That's it. Today's episode. I love a little recap because life is busy and I want you to have something to take with you. So what the heck did we do today? Well, the unsolicited advice of this episode was to take a gander at those New Year's resolutions. Give yourself props for how far you've come and recalibrate as and if necessary. In unrequired reading, I recommended Yes Please by the hilarious and wise Amy Poehler, delightful in both physical book and audiobook formats. And please follow and review wherever you pod, and join the Cheerberry on Instagram or Facebook by following me at the @Cheerberryan handle. That's where you can see resource links and other goodies, and talk to me, which I would love. Now go on, get out of here. Go get that Amy Poehler book. Drink more water. Okay, bye!